Hello, I'm really glad you're here tonight. This hour is different from the rest of the day. It doesn't ask you to decide anything. It doesn't ask you to perform or explain or keep up. It simply invites you to lie still and let your thoughts move at their own pace. As the years pass, nighttime becomes a kind of companion, a place where the mind is free to wander without interruption, where memories return, not urgently, but patiently, where understanding settles in quietly, without needing words. Later in life, the mind doesn't race the way it once did. It reflects, it revisits, it connects dots that once seemed unrelated. And it does this most honestly when the lights are off and the world has gone silent. This space is for those thoughts, the ones that don't surface during the day, the ones that arrive only when you're alone with yourself, resting, remembering, and gently making sense of a long, lived-in life. So take a slow breath, let your body soften into the bed, and allow this night to meet you where you are. And now, before we begin, if this kind of honest, gentle reflection speaks to you, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. And down in the comments, tell me where you're listening from and what time it is where you are right now. There's something comforting about knowing we're all here together, scattered across time zones, but united in these late hours when the world finally grows still. So settle in, adjust your pillows, find a comfortable position, and know that for the next hour, you're not alone in whatever wisdom you're carrying, whatever understanding you've earned, whatever truths rise to the surface when the lights go out. Let's begin. There is a sound you have known your whole life without ever needing to learn it. The sound of water moving, of waves arriving and receding, of something vast and unhurried touching the shore and pulling back again. You didn't have to be taught to find it calming. You didn't have to practice finding peace inside it. The moment you heard it, the very first time, something in you recognized it. Something old and deep responded to that rhythm. Something that lives in you below the level of thought, below the level of memory, below even the level of feeling. Something that has always understood the language of waves. Tonight, your thoughts are moving like that, gently, without force, without urgency. They arrive the way water arrives at the shore, not crashing, not demanding, but washing in slowly, touching the surface of your awareness, and then pulling back, carrying things with them, leaving things behind, rearranging the small stones of your understanding with each quiet pass. You are lying still right now. Your body is quiet. The room around you has settled into nighttime. The sounds of the day have receded. The obligations have stepped back. The to-do lists and the phone calls and the decisions and the demands and the expectations have all retreated, at least for now, at least for this hour. And in their place, something quieter has arrived. Something you only get access to in moments like these. Something that feels like the tide finally coming in. Close your eyes if they aren't already closed. Feel the weight of your body against the mattress beneath you. Feel the warmth that your body has created beneath the blankets. Feel the slight, steady movement of your chest as you breathe in and breathe out. You don't have to control this. You don't have to think about it or manage it. or direct it. Your body already knows how to do it. It has known since before you were born. It will continue knowing long after your mind has released everything for the night. You are being breathed. You are being carried. You are being held by something as constant and reliable as the tide itself. And now the waves begin. You've been living a long time now, long enough to know that life doesn't move in straight lines. It moves in waves. It has its rhythms of high and low, of fullness and receding, of seasons that arrive quietly and seasons that pass without ceremony. You have ridden so many of these waves throughout your life. Some you chose deliberately, many you didn't. Some lifted you higher than you had ever imagined possible. Others knocked you completely off your feet and left you breathless and disoriented on the shore. But here is the truth, that only time can teach a person. Every wave passed, every single one of them. The terrifying ones and the beautiful ones both. They came in and they went out again. They touched you and they moved on, and you remained. You are still here. Think about how remarkable that is. Not as a fact, but as a feeling. Let it move through you the way warm water moves. You have survived every single day of your life so far. Every storm, every drought, every unexpected wave that came from a direction you weren't watching. You have survived the losses that felt unsurvivable. You have survived the transitions you never chose. You have survived the nights when sleep wouldn't come, and the mornings when getting up felt impossible. And you have survived the quiet, ordinary Tuesdays, which are sometimes the hardest of all. You are here, tonight, breathing, resting, reflecting, receiving. That deserves more recognition than you probably give it. The waves of memory are beginning to move now. You can feel them, thoughts drifting in without being summoned, images surfacing like things that have floated up from deep and quiet water. You don't have to chase them. You don't have to direct them or organize them or assign them meaning. Simply allow them to arrive and notice what they bring with them. You remember a time when life felt very large and very uncertain. You were younger. Everything ahead of you was unknown. You stood at the edge of your own future, the way you might stand at the edge of the ocean, feeling the immensity of what stretched out before you, not knowing its depths, not knowing what it contained, not knowing whether you had what it would take to swim in it. The fear was real then. The excitement was also real. Both were enormous. Both felt like they might swallow you whole. You remember the way the world looked to you then. Brighter, perhaps. More saturated with possibility. Or maybe more overwhelming than bright. Perhaps the color of the world back then was the color of anxiety. Perhaps the future felt like too much water and not enough shore. Perhaps you weren't sure where to stand, or which direction to face, or whether to jump in or stay safely on the sand and watch others go. You made a choice, or a series of choices, some of them deliberate and considered, and some of them accidental, and some of them made for you by circumstances entirely beyond your control. The waves came and they moved you, and eventually, one choice and one wave at a time, you became who you are tonight. Lying here, remembering, the ocean still vast before you and somehow, impossibly less frightening than it once was. You know things now that you didn't know then. You know that the water is survivable. You know that you can float when you grow tired of swimming. You know that some waves are better to dive into than to run from. You know that the shore is always there even when you cannot see it through the dark. You know that other people are swimming too, even when the night makes it feel as though you are completely alone out there. You know things that no one could have told you when you were young. Things that could only be learned by living through them, by being carried by them and sometimes dragged by them, by surviving them and emerging on the other side, changed and sometimes breathless, but still standing, still breathing, still here. This is wisdom. Not the kind you read in books or gather secondhand from other people's stories. The kind that lives in your bones now. The kind that arrived through experience and stayed permanently. The kind that no one can take from you because it isn't stored in your memory as information. It's woven into the way you move through the world. Let yourself feel the weight of everything you know tonight, not as a burden, but as a richness. You have been filled by your life, all of it, the beautiful parts and the devastating parts, the quietly ordinary parts most of all. You are full of lived experience in a way that younger people simply aren't yet. Their ocean is wide but still shallow. Yours has depth. And lying here in the dark, you have access to all of it, the full depth, the full range, the full accumulated understanding of a life genuinely lived. The first wave moves through you, and it is gentle. You think about the people who shaped you, not abstractly, but specifically. One face surfaces first, or maybe more than one. Someone who mattered, someone who left an impression that has lasted for decades without fading. A parent, a teacher, a childhood friend who arrived at exactly the right moment in the right year. A stranger whose words you still carry even though you never cross paths again. You remember the way they looked at you, the specific quality of their attention. You were younger, and you felt seen in a way that was rare and precious. Or perhaps you felt unseen by someone who should have looked. And that absence of their gaze shaped you just as powerfully as any presence could have. Either way, they left something in you. A mark, an imprint, the way the ocean leaves minerals behind when the tide recedes from stone. You carry them with you still. You always have. Even in the years when you haven't thought about them at all, they are there. In the way you speak to strangers, in the things you find beautiful, in the instincts you trust without knowing why you trust them, in the fears you still flinch from without fully understanding where they came from, in the kindnesses you extend to others because someone once extended them to you first, or in the care you take not to repeat the particular pain that someone caused you. You studied what hurt you, and you chose differently. People shape us more profoundly than we ever acknowledge while it's happening. It's only in retrospect, in quiet moments exactly like this one, that you can trace the connections forward and backward through time. That you can see how that one teacher's encouragement became a career or a calling. How that one loss became a philosophy you live by. How that one act of kindness, offered quietly and without ceremony on an ordinary afternoon, planted something in you that took 30 years to fully bloom. You are a collection of everyone who ever touched your life with enough force to leave something behind. Everyone who ever made you feel something real. They are all here with you in this room tonight, not as presences you can reach out and touch, but as parts of who you are, woven permanently into your way of being, carried quietly in the current of everything you've become. Let yourself feel gratitude for them now, even the difficult ones, even the people whose impact was painful or confusing or unwanted, even the ones who were wrong about you, even the ones who left before you were ready for them to go, even the ones you've lost to time and to death and to the slow drift of lives moving in different directions. They were all part of your ocean. They moved through your life and left the shore of you permanently changed. And you kept going. You kept being shaped by wave after wave. And somehow all of that shaping, all of that pressure and movement and change added up to you, to this specific person lying here tonight, to this particular awareness, this unique collection of experience and memory and understanding existing in this moment that will never exist again in exactly this way. The wave recedes, another approaches. This one carries something different with it. It carries the memory of a place, not necessarily a grand or famous place, just a place that mattered to you in ways that are difficult to explain to anyone who wasn't there. A place where something true happened. A place your body still remembers even when your conscious mind has been too busy to visit it for years. Maybe it is a room in a house you grew up in. The particular smell of it, the particular way the light came through a specific window at a specific hour of the day, the feeling of safety that lived in its walls, or the tension that lived there too, because all homes carry both. Maybe it is a place outdoors, a field or a hillside or a body of water you return to again and again because something in that place restored something in you. Maybe it is a kitchen where important things were said over ordinary meals. Maybe it is a car you used to drive on a route you used to take, past things you watched change over decades. Maybe it is a spot so unremarkable and so particular that no one else in the world would understand why it mattered. You understand why it mattered. You go there now in your mind. You let the memory of it settle over you like warm water finding its level. You stand in that place once more. You feel what it felt like to be there. You breathe the air of it, which is not real air, but is real enough for this quiet night. You let your body remember. Your nervous system knows it. Some part of you lives there still, the way a part of the tide always belongs to the ocean, even when it has traveled all the way to touch the shore. Places hold versions of us that no longer exist anywhere else in the world. That room, that hillside, that road holds a version of you from 20 or 30 or 50 years ago. A version that still holds certain beliefs with complete conviction, that still loves someone who is no longer here, that still has a particular laugh about to happen and a particular kind of morning ahead. That version exists only there, preserved in the amber of a specific place and time that nothing in the world can undo or take away. Visiting it tonight is a gift you are giving yourself, the gift of your own long memory, the gift of having lived long enough for your past to feel like a landscape you can return to whenever the night is quiet enough to allow it. Not everyone gets this. Only those who have been alive long enough to accumulate real country behind them. You have country behind you, more than you often stop to recognize. How much of it have you actually walked back through lately? How often do you return to the places that made you and simply look around? How often do you stand in the memory of somewhere that shaped you and notice what it left behind? Another wave turns. The water is warm tonight. The reflection on its surface is steady and clear. You think about what you believed when you were young, the certainties you held so tightly, the things you were completely sure of, the plans you carried like maps, the version of the future you were moving toward, as if it were land you could already see clearly on the horizon, close enough to taste. Some of those things came true in the way you imagined. You arrived at a place you'd aimed for. You built something you had imagined building. You became something you had genuinely aspired toward. The destination didn't always look precisely the way you'd pictured it when you finally arrived, but something real was waiting there for you. Something you had worked for with real effort over real time. Something that was genuinely and unmistakably yours. Other things didn't come true. The horizon moved. The destination dissolved. The path curved in a direction you hadn't chosen, and by the time you had any real say in the matter, you were somewhere entirely different from where you had planned. Not worse, necessarily. Not a failure, just different. Just not the particular life you had imagined when you were standing at the very edge of everything, with the whole future still wide open ahead of you. You had to grieve those alternative lives, the ones you had planned and prepared for, the ones that didn't happen. This is a grief that doesn't always get acknowledged out loud or held with much tenderness. The grief for the life you didn't live, for the choices you didn't make or couldn't make, for the roads you didn't take, for the person you might have been under different circumstances or with different luck or different courage or different information at the critical moments. But here is what is also quietly and simply true. Those unlived lives don't know your joys. They don't hold the specific texture of your specific days. They don't know the particular people you have loved, the particular small moments that turned out to matter more than anything grand, the particular wisdom you earned through the exact path you actually walked, stumbled, rested, and continued along. Those alternative versions of you are incomplete. They are hypothetical. They are shadows of what might have been. But you are real. Your life is real, every wave of it. And lying here tonight in the quiet dark, you can feel the fullness of what is real. You have lived a genuine life, not a perfect life, not the imagined life, the real one. And real is better than perfect. Real is better than imagined. Real is where love actually roots itself and grows, where connection actually happens between people who are truly present, where meaning actually lives. Real is right here, tonight, under these blankets, in this breath, in this body that has carried you faithfully through every wave of every year without asking for more credit than it receives. The wave is gentle now. The water is smooth. The night is holding you. You don't need to solve anything tonight. You don't need to figure out what happens next, or review your decisions, or audit your choices, or count your regrets like currency you owe someone. That is not what this night is asking of you. This night is asking for something softer, something closer to acceptance, something more like quiet witnessing, like sitting at the edge of your own life and watching it the way you would watch the ocean from a comfortable place on the shore, with wonder, with patience, with the deep, earned understanding that the tides don't need your help, that they have been moving since long before you arrived and will continue moving long after, that your role has never been to control them, only to know them, to live inside them, to let them carry you when the swimming gets hard and the shore seems far. The waves of your life have been carrying you all along, even in the moments that felt like drowning. Something was carrying you forward, some current beneath the surface, some stubborn vitality in the very center of you that refused to stop moving toward air. Even in your worst nights, even in your deepest losses, even in the moments you were certain the water was too deep and the shore was too far and you had nothing remaining. Something kept you moving, and that something is still here with you tonight. It is you, the truest, quietest version of you, the part that doesn't panic when the waves arrive, the part that floats when it needs to, and swims when it can, and rests on the shore when the world finally allows it. That part of you has never failed you, not once. Through all the years and all the water, you are still in the ocean tonight. And tonight, the water is calm. Let that be enough. Let this gentle rocking be exactly what it is. Let the thoughts come and go without trying to hold them in place. Let the memories move through you without grasping at them. Let the night do what the night does best, which is to hold you without asking anything of you in return. You are breathing, you are resting, you are here. The first great wave of reflection has moved through you now. You can feel it receding slowly, like tide pulling back from warm sand, leaving behind a gentleness, leaving behind a quiet, leaving behind the particular peace that comes only from remembering honestly and without flinching what your life has actually been. Already you can feel the next wave forming, slow, patient, unhurried, building somewhere far out in the deep water of everything you carry and everything you know, moving toward you steadily without any rush at all. The night is long and soft and full of water, and you are safe inside it. There is something about nighttime that changes the way time moves. You've noticed this over the years, how the dark doesn't work the same way daylight does. Daylight moves in one direction only. It pushes you forward. It presents things in sequence. It says, this first, then this, then this. It is linear and directive and sometimes relentless. But nighttime folds. It curves. It allows the past to exist alongside the present, without contradiction. It lets something from 40 years ago sit as close as something that happened this morning. And in that folding, in that gentle collapsing of time, understanding becomes possible in a way it simply isn't during the daylight hours. You have always known this maybe, that the night thinks differently than the day, that the questions you ask yourself at noon are different from the questions that arrive at midnight. The noon questions are practical, productive. They want answers that can be acted upon. But the midnight questions are different in their nature. They aren't looking for action. They are looking for meaning, for coherence, for the thread that runs through everything and connects the beginning to the right now. Lying here tonight, you can feel that thread. You can feel it running through you the way a current runs beneath the surface of the water, invisible from above, but real, moving, connecting one thing to another across every distance of time and experience you have traveled. Think about who you were at your youngest, the very earliest version of yourself that you can still access in memory. What were you like? Not as a performance for anyone else, not as a role you played, but as a private, interior self. What did you notice that others around you didn't notice? What made you feel most alive? What frightened you in ways you couldn't name? What did you love before the world had time to teach you whether loving it was acceptable? That child is still in you. You know this. Some part of that earliest self survived everything that came after. It survived the shaping and the disappointment and the responsibilities. It survived the years of proving yourself and the years of losing things and the years of simply enduring. That original self, that first version of you, is still somewhere inside the person lying here tonight. And it has been watching everything. It has been registering everything. Every moment of beauty you have ever encountered, every kindness you gave and every kindness you received, every time something moved you so deeply that your body responded before your mind could catch up, every sunset that stopped you, every piece of music that reached somewhere you didn't know was reachable, every face that made your heart do something unexpected. That earliest self kept all of it. It is the keeper of your genuine responses to the world, before opinions, before preferences formed by experience, before you knew what you were supposed to feel. That first self felt things without qualification. And the record it kept is truer than almost anything you would tell someone about yourself now. What does that record say about you? What have you been consistently across all the decades and all the changes? What have you returned to again and again, even when the world didn't encourage it? What has stayed loyal in you even when you were disloyal to it? The wave carries this question. It doesn't demand an answer. It simply holds the question in the water, turning it slowly, letting you look at it from different angles as it passes through you and begins its long journey back. There is another thing the night does that daylight cannot. It shows you other people more clearly than you can see them in the business of daily life. In the daylight, people are defined by what they do, by their roles and their functions and their usefulness in your particular circumstances. But at night, lying still, remembering, you can see the people in your life not as functions, but as souls, as fellow travelers in the same ocean, as people who were also riding waves they didn't choose, who were also sometimes struggling and sometimes floating and sometimes standing on a shore they never expected to reach. You think about someone you love, or someone you loved, or someone you lost, without ever fully understanding how much they mattered until after they were gone. You can see them now with a clarity that feels like a gift. The particular way they moved through a room, the quality of their attention when they were genuinely present with you, the sound of their voice in a specific moment, the look on their face when they were happy in a way they weren't performing for anyone. You can see the ways they were struggling that you didn't recognize at the time, the weight they carried that you only understand now, in retrospect, because life has taught you what certain kinds of weight look like. You can see their generosity more clearly now, their courage, which was often quiet and therefore invisible when it was happening, the specific beauty of who they were, which is easier to see now that the ordinary friction of daily life is no longer obscuring it. This is one of the gifts of time, this clearer seeing, this capacity to look back at the people who have moved through your life and appreciate them in ways you couldn't while they were present. Not with guilt, necessarily, not with regret, though sometimes that is present too, but with a genuine and deep appreciation for what they were, for what they gave you, for the ways they contributed to the ocean of your life, however brief or however long, though a time in it lasted. You can also see yourself more clearly in this night light. You can see the ways you were struggling that you never admitted to anyone, the fears you carried silently, the uncertainty you covered with confidence, the loneliness you masked with busyness, the grief you postponed because there was always something else that needed your attention first. You can see yourself with the same compassion you've just extended to someone you loved. You can look at the person you have been across all these years and see not a series of failures and successes to be evaluated, but a person doing what people do, trying, adapting, surviving, occasionally thriving, sometimes failing, always continuing. You've been hard on yourself at times. Most people who care about doing well are. You have replayed mistakes and second-guessed decisions and told yourself stories about all the ways you fell short of what you could have been. But lying here tonight, in the gentleness of the waves, you can see that person you've been judging so harshly, and you can see how much they were carrying, how much they were navigating, how many things they were balancing simultaneously, how many competing demands they were trying to meet with the resources they actually had, not the resources they wished they had. You did the best you could with what you had at each moment. This is not an excuse. It is simply true. The waves of your circumstances shaped you the way water shapes stone, and the stone that remains is remarkable, worn smooth in places, marked by the water's path, but solid, present, real. The night holds all of this without judgment. It holds the best of you and the worst of you with equal patience. It asks nothing. It offers only this: the quiet, the dark, the rhythm of your own breathing, and the sound of the waves moving through memory, moving through meaning, moving through the long, wide, deep ocean of everything you have been and everything you have lived and everything still that you are. Breathe in, breathe out. The water is warm. The waves are gentle. You are not done yet. The shore is not yet in sight. And tonight, that is exactly as it should be. Rest now in the space between one wave and the next. Let your body grow heavier into the mattress. Let your shoulders fall. Let your jaw unclench. Let your hands open gently at your sides. The wave that is forming now is older than the others. You can feel it in the way it moves. Slower, deeper, rising from a place in the water that the shallower waves never reach. This one carries something different with it, not just your memories, not just your story, something older than your story, something that was moving long before you arrived in the world and has continued moving through you without you ever quite realizing it. This wave carries the people who came before you, the elders, the ones who stood at the edge of their own nights, in beds long before yours existed, in rooms long before this one was built, under skies that looked exactly the same as the sky outside your window tonight. They lay still just as you are lying still. They breathed slowly just as you are breathing slowly. And they thought about everything they had lived through, just as you are thinking about everything you have lived through. They were you in all the ways that matter. They were exactly you. Before the dawn comes, in this particular hour when the world is most quiet and most honest, they are close. You can feel them if you allow yourself to. Not as ghosts, not as anything frightening or strange, simply as presences, as warmth, as the unmistakable sense that you are not the first person to have lain awake in the dark and wondered what it all meant. You are not the first to have searched the silence for answers that don't come in words. You are not the first to have felt the weight of a long life, pressing gently on your chest in the hours before dawn. You come from people, real people, specific people, men and women who had hands and voices and preferences and fears, who woke up cold on certain mornings and warm on others, who loved imperfectly and were loved imperfectly in return, who made choices that shaped the chain of events that eventually produced you, and who carried, in their own nighttime hours, their own waves of memory and reflection and quiet reckoning with the life they had been given. Think about the oldest person you knew when you were a child, someone elderly, someone who seemed ancient to you then, though perhaps they were not nearly as old as they appeared through young eyes. You remember looking at them and sensing a depth you couldn't access, a history you couldn't read, a whole world living inside them that had nothing to do with your own young world. You sensed it. You couldn't name it, but something in you recognized that this person contained multitudes, that behind their face were decades of waves you had never seen and couldn't imagine. You are that person now, to someone younger. Somewhere in your life, there are young eyes that look at you and sense that same depth, that same inaccessible history, that same weight of an entire world lived inside one body. They look at you and they see age, which is to say they see time, which is to say they see everything. Time does to a person, and everything a person does with time. They may not understand it yet, but they sense it, the same way you sensed it in the elder you are thinking of right now. The elder you remember from your childhood carried shadows of their own elders, shadows of people you never met, people who lived in times so different from your own that they feel almost mythological, people whose names you may have heard in passing, in the way family names get passed around at gatherings, but whose lives you know almost nothing about. People who nevertheless shaped everything that followed, shaped the elder you remember, who shaped the adults in your life, who shaped you, who shape, even now, the people you have shaped. You carry them. You carry all of them. Like sediment carried by the tide, layer upon invisible layer, deposited over centuries, forming the ground you stand on. You are standing on the lives of everyone who came before you. You could not exist without that ground. And everything you are, every value you hold, every instinct you trust, every fear you carry, every beauty you recognize is partly composed of what was deposited there by lives you never witnessed. There were elders before you who lay awake before dawn and worried about things they could not fix, who lay awake and counted their losses, who lay awake and missed people who were gone, who lay awake and turned over decisions they had made years ago, wondering still if they had chosen rightly, wondering still if the path they had taken was the best available path or just the path that was there. They carried the same uncertainties you carry. They felt the same thinness of the hours before dawn. They experienced the same strange courage it takes to simply continue, day after day, in the face of everything that is uncertain and everything that is inevitable. They continued, and because they continued, you are here. There is a particular kind of grief that arrives in these hours before dawn, not the fresh grief of recent loss. That grief is louder and more demanding. It announces itself. It fills rooms. It makes itself impossible to ignore. But this grief is older, quieter, the kind that has settled into the bottom of things over many years, the kind that has become simply part of the landscape, the way a stone becomes part of a riverbed. You don't always notice it, but in the quiet before dawn, when everything else has receded, you can feel it there. Solid, permanent, true. You have lost people. This is not a neutral fact. It is a weight you carry in a particular way that is entirely your own. Your losses have their own specific shape, their own specific texture. The person whose absence you feel most acutely tonight is not a generality. They are specific. Their face is specific. The sound of their voice is specific. The particular quality of what you had together, that is specific too. No one else has lost exactly what you have lost, because no one else had exactly what you had. Your grief is legitimate. It is real, and it does not need to be resolved tonight or managed tonight or overcome. It simply needs to be acknowledged, witnessed, given the same quiet, patient space that this whole night has been offering you. It deserves to be felt without apology, without the pressure to be past it already, without the social expectation that you should have healed by now, or moved on, or found peace. The elders before you knew this grief. They knew it in their own specific forms, and they did not always heal from it completely. They carried it. They learned to live alongside it. They discovered that loss over time does not shrink so much as it becomes integrated. It becomes part of the landscape of you, part of the ground you stand on. Not a wound you recover from, but a presence you learn to carry with a certain quiet dignity. You are learning this too, or you have already learned it. And either way, lying here tonight, you do not have to pretend the weight isn't there. You can simply feel it, quietly, without drama. the way you feel the weight of the blankets over you. Present, real, familiar, part of the night. Breathe. Let the grief be there. Let it move through you the way the wave moves, without resistance, without trying to direct it or contain it or make it mean something different from what it means. Simply let it wash through. And as it recedes, notice what it leaves behind. Because grief, when it is allowed to move freely, rather than being held at bay, always leaves something. It leaves tenderness. It leaves a widened capacity for compassion. It leaves a deeper understanding of what love actually requires, which is the willingness to be vulnerable enough that loss is possible. You have been that vulnerable. You have loved that much. And that is not a tragedy. That is one of the most courageous things a human being can do. The shadows before dawn are not only shadows of loss, they are also shadows of time, of the particular, irreversible nature of time, how it moves in only one direction, how the mornings you wake to are never the same morning twice, how the people sitting at a table together on a particular evening will never sit together in exactly that configuration again, and none of them know it while it's happening. How ordinary moments are simultaneously permanent and unrepeatable. How they are happening and becoming memory at the exact same time. You have stood inside ordinary moments without knowing they were extraordinary. Almost everyone does. You have been in the middle of something beautiful and been too distracted to fully receive it. Too busy or too tired or too preoccupied with the next thing. You were there, but not quite there, present in body, somewhere else in mind, and the moment moved on without your full attention, without you inside it completely. This is not a failure. This is being human. It is impossible to be fully present in every moment. It is impossible to recognize extraordinary beauty in real time with the same clarity you recognize it in retrospect. The understanding always arrives after the fact. The knowing always comes too late to go back and tell yourself to pay attention. This is one of the great gentle sadnesses of living. That understanding and experience are almost always slightly out of phase with each other. But lying here tonight, in the shadows before dawn, you can return to those moments, the ones you were half present for. You can give them your full attention now. You can be completely inside them in memory in a way you couldn't quite be at the time. You can sit at that table again and really look at the faces there. You can stand in that doorway and really feel the light. You can hear that conversation and actually listen, instead of thinking about what you were going to say next. Memory is a form of second presence, a chance to arrive fully, where you could only arrive partially the first time. And it offers something that the original moment couldn't offer, which is the knowledge that this was significant. This mattered. This was one of the real ones. Let one of the real ones surface now. Not the major events, not the milestone. Something quieter than that. A small moment that was actually enormous. A brief exchange that was actually a declaration. A casual afternoon that was actually perfect. A passing gesture from someone you loved that was actually a whole speech compressed into a single movement. Something small that held everything. You have those moments, more of them than you have probably counted. more ordinary miracles tucked into the folds of your regular days than you have stopped to appreciate. The elders before you had them too. They lay in their own pre-dawn hours and turned those moments over in their hands like smooth stones, feeling their weight, their realness, their irreplaceable warmth. This is what the hours before dawn are for. This careful turning over of the real moments, this returning to what actually mattered, this gentle reassessment of what constituted a good life, which is never what anyone thought it would be when they were young and measuring their life against grand ambitions and public achievements. A good life, as experienced from the inside, in the quiet before dawn, is made of small things, of specific voices at specific times, of the smell of a particular season in a particular place you called home, of the feeling of being known by someone, of moments of genuine laughter, of the satisfaction of work done with care, of the warmth of being needed, of the peace occasionally of feeling exactly right in your own skin, which is rarer than anyone admits and more precious than almost anything else. You have had those moments of rightness, where everything aligned, where the wave you were riding and the shore toward which it was carrying you were in perfect harmony, where your life felt like exactly the life that was meant for you, not a substitute for something better, not a consolation prize, not a detour from the real thing, but the real thing itself, present, true, yours. Those moments live in you permanently. No wave can wash them out. No passage of time can dilute them. No loss can undo them. They happened. They were real. They are still real inside you, preserved in the part of you that the ocean never reaches, the part that is bedrock, the part that is deeper than memory, the part that is simply and permanently you. The elders who came before you also had their bedrock, their irreducible core of real moments that no amount of difficulty or loss or time could take from them. And they carried that bedrock into their own pre-dawn hours, the way you are carrying yours tonight, with a kind of quiet, unassuming dignity, with a stubbornness about joy that is one of the most beautiful things human beings are capable of. The stubbornness that says, yes, I have lost things, and yes, the waves have been hard sometimes, and yes, the night before dawn is long and full of shadows, and also there was that afternoon, that voice, that one perfect ordinary day that I would not trade for anything the world might offer in its place. You have that. You carry that. Let it rise now. Let the warmth of it move through your chest. Let it do what only the real moments can do, which is to remind you, in the simplest and most undeniable way possible, that your life has contained genuine beauty, genuine love, genuine meaning, not performed meaning, not borrowed meaning, yours, original, earned. The dark before dawn is the darkest part of the night. You know this. You have been awake in these hours enough times to know that the darkness deepens just before the light begins to move. It is a darkness that has a texture to it, a thickness, a weight that is different from the darkness of early night. Early night has the quality of settling, but this darkness, the darkness before dawn, has the quality of waiting, of the held breath before something changes. You are in that breath right now. The elders before dawn knew this breath well. The ones who lived long enough to reach the hours they never expected to reach, who lay in pre-dawn stillness, knowing that their time was shortening, not with terror, not with desperate grasping, but with a particular hard-earned acceptance that comes to those who have ridden enough waves to know that the ocean has always been trustworthy, that it has always brought them to shore eventually, that the water, however cold it got or however rough, never finally abandoned them. They had made their peace, not all at once and not completely, because peace is not a destination you arrive at finally and completely. It is something you practice, something you choose again and again in the quiet moments when choosing it is genuinely available. They chose it in the pre-dawn dark. They lay still and they breathed, and they let the shadows move through them without fighting. And in doing so, they became, without exactly choosing it, a kind of light themselves, the kind of light that age and experience and honest living gradually produces, the kind that younger people can feel without being able to explain what they're feeling. You are becoming that light. Whether you recognize it or not, whether you feel luminous or simply tired, the depth that you carry, the gentleness you have earned, the quiet understanding that lives in your face and your movements and the way you receive the world, that is light, real light, the kind that only comes from having been in the dark and found your way through more than once, more than a dozen times, through decades of dark finding your way through. Someone younger is navigating their own darkness right now. Somewhere in the world, at this very moment, someone who needs exactly the kind of light you carry is making their way through a wave that feels unsurvivable, and they may or may not have access to you. But the light exists, and light, once it exists, does not simply disappear. It travels, it touches things, it illuminates quietly without announcing itself, the way dawn illuminates, spreading slowly across whatever it reaches, not demanding attention, but simply providing it, simply being available. You have been that light for people in your life without necessarily knowing it. The conversation you had that you've long since forgotten and that someone else has carried for 20 years. The thing you said at exactly the right moment without knowing it was the right moment. The simple presence you offered when someone needed a witness and you were there. The example of continuing, which is its own quiet form of light. The evidence you provide simply by existing and by having survived your waves. That survival is possible, that the shore is real, that the water is navigable. This is your legacy that lives before any formal accounting of it, before any eulogy or any list of accomplishments or any testament. This informal legacy of light that you have been casting for decades on the people around you. This is the real thing. This is what actually moves forward through time, not the facts of your life, but the quality of your presence in it, the kindness you practiced, the patience you extended, the genuine interest you showed in other people's lives, the way you showed up, imperfectly and consistently, which is the only way anyone ever truly shows up for the people they love. The wave is moving through you slowly now, deeper than the others, warmer, carrying with it the accumulated wisdom of all the elders before dawn who found their way to this same moment and discovered what you are discovering, that the shadows before dawn are not something to survive. They are something to receive. They are the gift of the quiet, the gift of the dark that allows a different kind of seeing. The gift of these hours when the world is stripped of its noise and its speed and its demand for your constant participation, and you are left with only yourself, only your breath, only the long, true story of your life, moving through you like water, carrying everything that matters, leaving everything that doesn't. You are leaving things behind tonight, without effort, without choosing to. The waves are doing it for you. They are carrying away the things that were never essential, the things you are holding only out of habit or fear or the accumulated weight of years of not knowing. You are allowed to put them down. They are washing clean the parts of you that needed washing. They are revealing what has always been there beneath the accumulation of everything life requires you to carry in the ordinary hours. What is revealed is enough, more than enough. It has always been enough. The person beneath the weight is good, is real, is worthy of exactly the rest they are being offered right now in the long, soft dark before dawn. Your body is heavy now, heavy in the best way, the way that comes not from exhaustion, but from real release, from muscles that have remembered they are allowed to stop working, from a nervous system that has finally accepted the invitation of the night to stop scanning, stop bracing, stop preparing for the next thing. Your body is sinking into the bed with the full and honest weight of everything it has carried, and the bed receives it completely. It holds you completely. It asks nothing of you. It simply receives. Your breathing has changed without you asking it to. It has become slower, more patient, less directed, more like water than like effort. You are not pushing the breath in or pulling the breath out. It is simply moving, the way the tide moves, the way the wave moves, without your intervention, without your management, without any requirement that you do anything at all except be here, inside it, being carried. The shadows are still here. They have not disappeared. The memories are still present. The faces, the losses, the moments of beauty, the long story of everything you have been. They are all here, but they have become quiet. They have settled the way water settles after the wave has passed through it. The surface has stilled. The depth is no longer turbulent. Everything is here and everything is calm, and everything in this particular moment is exactly as it should be. The elders before dawn knew this feeling. The ones who arrived at this place of stillness in their own pre-dawn hours, the ones who lay in their own beds, in their own rooms, under their own skies, and felt the wave finally pass through them completely and leave behind this profound and simple quiet. They knew it, and knowing it, they rested, they released, they let the night complete its work. Now it is time for you to do the same. You have done the work of this night. You have let the waves move through you. You have remembered honestly. You've received the shadows without fighting them. You have sat with the grief and the beauty and the specific, irreplaceable texture of your specific, irreplaceable life. You have visited the people who shaped you. You have returned to the places that held you. You have held the real moments with the reverence they deserve. You have felt the weight of everyone who came before you and the light you carry forward for everyone who comes after. You have been, in this quiet hour, fully present to the full truth of who you are. That is not a small thing. That is everything. Now let it go. Let the whole beautiful, complicated, aching, luminous weight of it dissolve gently into the dark. Let it become part of the water, part of the tide, part of the constant, patient, unstoppable movement of the ocean that has carried you this far and will continue carrying in its own way, long after this particular night is over. Let your eyes remain closed. Let your body remain heavy. Let your breath remain slow and steady and entirely its own. Let the last of the thoughts drift without attachment. Let the final faces soften and recede. Let the memories return to the deep water where they live when you are not visiting them. Let everything settle. The darkness before dawn is the kindest darkness. It holds you with a patience that has no end. It asks only that you receive it, that you allow it to do what it has always been here to do, which is to give you back to yourself, returned, restored, quieted to your essential nature. The part of you that existed before the world had a chance to complicate you, the part that is simply alive and warm and present and breathing. You are that tonight, underneath everything else, at the bottom of all the waves, in the deepest and most permanent part of the ocean. You are simply that, alive, warm, present, breathing. And now, gently, the sleep that has been waiting patiently at the edge of all these thoughts is moving closer. You can feel it. It doesn't announce itself. It simply arrives the way dawn arrives, gradually, softly, replacing one kind of quiet with another. The quiet of reflection becoming the quiet of rest. The waves of memory becoming the wordless movement of a mind releasing its hold on everything and agreeing, finally, completely, to let go. Let go. Your life has been worth it. Every wave of it, every season of it, every ordinary Tuesday and every extraordinary loss and every small miracle folded inside the regular days, it has all been the real thing. Not a rehearsal, not a compromise, the genuine article, a human life actually lived in all its depth and all its difficulty and all its irreducible, unmistakable, completely specific beauty. You don't need to announce this. You don't need to say it out loud or share it with anyone tonight. It is enough to feel it quietly, here in the dark, in the space between the last wave and the first light. To feel the truth of it settle into you, the way the warmth settles into cold hands, slowly, completely, without requiring anything from you in return. The elders before dawn felt this too, the ones who arrived at this hour with their full lives behind them and their breath still moving and the night still holding them. They felt this quiet arrival of knowing, this particular peace that has nothing to do with everything being resolved or everything being good. A peace that exists alongside the complicated truth of a real life, that coexists with the losses and the regrets and the unanswered questions. A peace that says, even so, even with all of it, even through all of it, it has been real. And real is the only thing that was ever actually worth having. You are in that peace right now, right here, beneath these blankets, in this breath, in this body that has carried you faithfully through every single day of your life and is carrying you still. The peace is here. It was always going to be here. It has been waiting for you in this particular quiet, in this particular hour, in this particular meeting of darkness and memory and honesty and rest. Receive it completely, without qualification or condition, without earning it or explaining it. Simply let it be yours, because it is yours. It has always been yours. You have always deserved this quiet, this rest, this gentle and faithful holding by a night that asks nothing of you and offers everything. The world outside your window is beginning its slow turn toward morning. Not yet, but somewhere in the body of the dark, the first imperceptible movement toward dawn has begun. The stars are exactly where they have always been. The air is cool and clean and carrying the particular smell of the hour before everything changes. The world is very still, the most still it gets, the deepest point of the night, right before the turn. And you are here inside that stillness, part of it, made of the same patience and the same quiet. You are not separate from the night. You belong to it, the same way the wave belongs to water. The wave is passing now. The last of the shadows of memory are dissolving gently back into the deep. The faces are softening. The voices are growing quieter. The long story of everything you have been and everything you have survived and everything you have loved is settling, like sand settling in still water. Slowly, unhurriedly, finding its level, finding its rest. Your body knows it is time. Your mind, which has been so patient and so generous tonight, is ready to release, to hand the night back to the quiet, to stop being the one who holds everything and simply become the one who is held. The one who is carried, the one who rests inside the wave without needing to steer it or understand it or know where it is going. Let your hands rest, open, receiving. Let your shoulders fall a little more. Let your jaws soften one final time. Let the last of the tension, whatever small knot of it, remain somewhere you haven't quite found tonight. Let it dissolve now into the warmth, into the dark, into the slow and patient breathing that your body knows how to do and will do faithfully through everything that remains of this night. You are enough. You have always been enough. The child who didn't understand the world yet was enough. The young person who made mistakes was enough. The adult who carried more than anyone knew was enough. The person you are tonight, lying here with your long life behind you, and your breath still moving, and the night still gently holding you, you are enough, completely, irreducibly, without condition or qualification or any further proof required. The night has received everything you brought to it, every wave of memory, every shadow of an elder before dawn, every grief and every gratitude and every quiet, irreplaceable moment of beauty you have ever been given. The night holds all of it. It will continue holding all of it, long after you have drifted into sleep, long after the dark has given way to light. It will carry all of it in the same patient way it has always carried everything. And you can rest inside that carrying, completely, trustingly, the way the tide trusts the ocean, the way the wave trusts the water, without needing to know the destination, without needing to see the shore. Simply moving, simply being carried, simply breathing inside the vast and faithful dark. The fires die down, the stories settle, and the world grows still. Let your thoughts drift away like embers on the wind. Good night. You have journeyed far through time tonight. Now it is time to journey into dreams. Close your eyes, breathe, and let sleep find you.